rupees. Gresham was basically an archaeologist and also perhaps anthropologist, because when you read the book you find that kind of material in fact. From one end of the country to the other end, India was linked by these inland and maritime trading activities, and our political elements of Indian state took all steps in every age and every region for protection, promotion and development of trade, because our sustenance was seriously linked to it. Our simple sustenance of not only human beings at societal level, at popular level, but our existence at political level was also linked to trade. I give you one of the best examples. As a medievalist, we all say Muhammad Tughlaq's kingdom declined because he was a fool, he transferred the capital. Never at all. If you look at all records, there was no Muslim ruler in any Indian state, including Tipu Sultan, as well read, as qualified from the universities in Iran and Persia as Muhammad Tughlaq was. But why the empire under him declined that time was because there was a famine in 1351, as a result of which trade immensely went down and declined. And merchants could not support him. There was no economy to support him. So therefore, I always feel that basically, when I say idea of trade is primary and politics is secondary. I feel the idea of trade emerged much before the evolution of primitive political societies and political structures. Therefore, idea of trade is always paramount and idea of polity is subordinate to it. That's my understanding. There are references to Indian trade settlements in China, Persia, Central Asia, Indonesia, Japan, Mediterranean, Rome, Africa, Arabia and many other countries from Indus material cultural formation of 3rd millennium BC. We have also a regular evidence of good going of commerce between southern India and Roman Empire from 2nd century BC. I was telling you, look at the Warmington's book that has bulk of information. Today, Professor Nagaraj Saab may forget. But let me tell you, the two people who told me go and study Warmington was Professor S. Nagaraju and Professor M.L.K. Murthy, your friend. When I was doing some work on Ladakh and Silk Route, I remember one evening, because Professor Saab used to sit in his room up to 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock also sometimes. It's not like our present generation that we take the class and disappear. So, we have this evidence from Warmington's book, and there is plentiful data also if you look at the battles between the Persians and the Romans. Charles Worlington, who also did a lot of work on early trade, he says that it seems that by 3000 BC, Indians from Indus had established maritime contacts with Mesopotamia and Egypt. This implies not merely knowledge of coastal navigation, but also of monsoons and maritime currents. Moreover, they must have had means for transporting heavy and cumbersome goods, for the ruins of Ur have shown traces of Indian teak wood. These early contacts were without doubt the exploits of Dravidians and later the Aryans, if one is to believe Sanskrit and Pali texts of much later times. Arthashastra of Kautilya refers to Navadayaksha. Navadayaksha, the superintendent of ships who regulated trade through waterways and supervised collection of all proper taxes, enforcing harbor regulations, punishing persons violating harbor rules. After the growth and development of inland and maritime trade under the rule of Nandas and Mauryas, very important role was played by Satavahanas of Andhra from 2nd century BC in south and Kushanas in North India from 1st century AD. This is fully attested by the coins of Satavahanas. You can see, I am not in a position to pronounce whether we should say Pulimai or Pulimai 1, if you look at the coins. I forgot to extend this argument of pre-Grecian, which I was telling you, an archaeologist who says he has shown a photograph there, at that photograph in the sense some sketch which is discovered on a stone in one of the areas of Iran where in 2nd century BC he illustrates the evidence that Indians are going to pick up the art of metal making. And these people are going along with the merchants and traders at that point of time, picking up the art of, metal making, iron in fact, in parts of Iran in fact. It's very interesting to note that trade was the main reason for Ashoka to invade Kalinga, because he wanted to control vast coastline that offered great commercial opportunities and resources. During 261 BC, Ashoka's Kalinga war, a large number of people from Kalinga migrated to Southeast Asia along with Turks, Persians, Afghans, Yarkandis and Chinese. The conquest of Egypt in 30 BC by Romans was only directed to open up commercial opportunities for Rome. It has been acknowledged by Roman poets that to overcome the conditions of extreme poverty in some parts of Rome, the Romans looked for trading opportunities in India even before the birth of Christ. It was not simply that the Europeans were superior to us, but they also came and they were also starving for such opportunities and benefit from India. During Gupta rule, the local and internal trade made a remarkable progress. It's well documented and an established fact. After Gupta rule, many regions took the lead in promotion and patronization of trade further. Kalinga was one of them. We have such evidence in bulk that these contacts existed for thousands and thousands of years. I am also only supplementing the point that our archaeologists and others have been raising here. It's amazing intellectually. It is amazing and intellectually stimulating to notice that scores of brilliant scholars wrote about trade, its variety of aspects and the way it progressed and declined and contributed to the making and unmaking of civilizations, nations and countries. But what is that can be drawn as a major generalization from all this history of trade? I feel that the trade, whether inland or maritime, has played significant role in stabilizing human societies, polities all over the world from antiquity. Even in our primitive stage of development, trade in terms of exchange of goods or as a barter of whatever level was a great driving force for further development of social and state formations all over the world. It was not simply agricultural production only that pushed primitive social formation towards feudal formation. You see, the argument which hypnotized Indian historians, many of them in North India for a longer period of time, that trade declined, people went to agriculture and therefore feudalism emerged. Henry Perrin's argument here. In fact, it is these young scholars with the evidence from our senior historians here that you can contest even Mark Bloch, Henry Perrin and many European scholars today when you have this bulk of evidence available to you. Because the temptation for the very idea of owning land for production was backed by the idea of obtaining surplus for exchange of goods and services. It was not simply, I for one, even today also people cannot go and purchase land if it is unproductive. If they don't obtain any surplus amount from there, if it is simply for sustenance, a person owning or purchasing a land cannot purchase a land for sustenance when he has no sustenance. He can invest in land only when there is an idea of obtaining surplus agriculture, which he can sell, which he can get technology for in exchange, and so on. So it is trading of surplus which facilitated obtaining of new tools and technology, items of luxury that gave fillip to feudal formation, not the absence of trade. And you have plentiful of existence of trade. If you look at Silk Route trade, if you look at maritime trade, if you look at trade within India, in many regions there is plenty of evidence that is coming to the forefront now. Therefore, when we view every transition in human society from one stage of development to another in very holistic manner, we discover that the idea of trade was always central to human society, economy and polity. So therefore, it is the idea of trade which is a moot point, which is our basic, foundational rock, in fact, for this question of discussing social formation and so on. It's an institution from which the early polity and state formation stepped. It gave birth to evolution of empires and took them to the height of their glory, and their collapse also took place because of the decline of their commercial potential. Ladakh, for example, which I have extensively worked on this route of, Silk Route. If you look at the stories, if you look at the bulk of statistics, you'll be terribly surprised if you look at the stats that's available in National Archives, that's available in Berlin, that's available in Germany's various repositories, the Repository of France, Indian Office Library in London, which has been released also, and our National Archives of India, Delhi. You'll be really amazed. Truckloads of information of trade statistics on this route. It was that